that big announcement. I mean, it's wonderful. It is really wonderful news because there's two things you can look at it as. Firstly, people that are going to want IVF treatment are going to have an ease of access to it. That is wonderful. Creating life and all that, that is brilliant news. Secondly, IVF stocks are going to do really well because not just the IVF stocks, but insurance companies that are going to be offering the ability for people to actually take on insurance, to exercise that insurance when they do want to utilize IVF. So then you've got insurance companies, all right? So they're going to be offering services and what have you. That is naturally going to be creating value in companies on the US stock market. No mention of tariffs. He said that he had a great conversation with Putin. Crypto, back pocket. Not even interested in that. Oh. Very tricky day again. It's been very tricky to trade. Can't lie. But what we're going to talk about tonight, guys, is just break down a little bit of price action because I have some really good news. The first asset ever in history to hit $30 trillion. Gold, man. I'm going to show you very shortly. But you'll be surprised with Bitcoin's position. It's not really great, but we have hope. We have hope. Because this proves that if that can do it, so can Bitcoin. I'm talking too optimistic now about Bitcoin, man. Let's just face the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on a second. Welcome to tonight's live, guys. What I'm going to do, break down a bit of Bitcoin price action, show you what I did today on trading, and then just have a general chit-chat about the BS that is going off in this marketplace. All right, so if you are new, welcome. My name is Tino. Look at the TV. Happy days. Let's get on with the program. There it is. $30 trillion, the first asset ever in history, and to add insult to injury, okay? It's up 3.19% for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, nearly $150 away from the projection of $4,500 gold. That is unbelievable. Goldman Sachs, man, they were right in the end. Second place, Nvidia. Microsoft third. Apple fourth. Alphabet. Silver, not bad. Amazon, and then all the way down at the bottom here is Bitcoin. It's the most expensive asset, less valuable. That is demonstrating right there, guys, the idea that just because gold has got the $30 trillion market cap does not mean that there will not be a rotation. Right now, gold is only going up because, of course, the idea of interest rates, geopolitical issues, and what have you. Remember, we have been on this path of rate cuts for quite some time, and we only just got it with the rate cut of 25 basis points. But in the in the December meeting, they are going to be announcing the idea of QT coming to an end. They're going to announce it, okay? Quantitative tightening. Now, we've had some interesting story today from the Bank of Japan. They're saying that if everything goes according to plan, then we should be doing exactly what we should be doing in terms of policy, in an indirect way, increasing the interest rates. Let's go and have a look. Shoots up today, 0.59% on a high of around 0.7. Okay, not bad. Nearly 1% gain. Not too far away from our little projected area. If the yen goes up, the euro goes up, then the bonds go up for the Japanese yen. Investors will then go into the 10-year bonds market, and because they're scared, that means assets go down. What will Bitcoin do, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's go and have a look at Bitcoin. A little bit of a horrible day with Bitcoin. Not very good. I mean, the recovery of the wick and the blue vector candle coming into play. We did have this as a setup, okay? So if you're not a platinum member, you would have missed out on this setup today. So it was a bit tough. I was a little bit too optimistic with the idea that Bitcoin was going to come up towards 12,609 to then take the reversal to the downside and clear out the 108,478. That was my projection for today. Going into the actual price action itself, you can see Bitcoin came up towards the 112,005. So it didn't quite make the move to the entry point. But I give an update at the end of the New York live every single day and say that I'm still in line with my setup to see Bitcoin go to the downside. So if the guys got paid on that, happy days. Secondly, going to Ethereum, wanted to see Ethereum try and do something. I wanted to see her come up towards the 200 EMA, 4,081, 4,128 to then try and make a reversal from that point. Go over to Ethereum and have a look over there, and you can see that she came up towards the 4,088. Now, in terms of this entry points, guys, I'm never going to get pinpoint entries. No one will, no one can, unless the limit order is hit. Okay, so I give these setups at the start of the morning, so about 5:30 Eastern Standard. So it's early doors for you guys, and we anticipate that by the end of the day, we're going to see Ethereum come down towards the projected zone. So we wanted to see Ethereum come and clear out the psychological high as the target one, clear out 3,818, and they've just missed it by just a couple of dollars or so. Okay, but overall, people made some money on that. And then Solana finally. We had the idea of, well, I wanted to see gold make a move to the upside today of 4,280. And we ended up getting gold finishing at 4,324. So, yeah, that was a nice little play right there on gold. Every day that I update the guys, I say gold's going up. Tap the entry point of 4,234. And what we saw was a retrace back into it, 4,227, to then see the retrace continuation to the upside over there. So that was a good play there. And then, of course, we had NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ today behaved exactly the way we wanted it to behave. I wanted to see NASDAQ at the start of the New York session come up towards 25,213, okay? What we ended up getting was this story. NASDAQ came up towards the 25,181. It was at that point where I was expecting NASDAQ to make a reversal to the downside. I opened my shorts on there. However, I didn't play the futures markets today on this drop to the downside. I only played the options market because I was like, come on, Trump's going to be speaking. Okay. So if it's good news, they're going to mark it down first. Right. And in the end, we ended up clearing out £26,000, £26,715, opening the puts today at top side of 24,910. Give or take, the pricing is different. But strike price was at 77, closed at 186, that you can see at the top there. And then I didn't open as many trades today because Donald Trump was talking, so I didn't really trust it. But we played a decent day today. It was another decent day for the puts. But then what I then did was I started to trade the news and the reversal from this point here when Trump started to speak. Because what they had done was they had smacked the lows. And what usually happens is NASDAQ prints a little W formation, okay? And this was that W formation right there. And I did take advantage of that. Didn't make too much, but my personal account here, we did $1,865. So £27,000 for the day. It's a good day to finish the week off. I will not be trading tomorrow. No chance. I'm exhausted from trading this week because when I play options, guys, I'm having to place the option. And if you don't go into it and you place an option, that is all you can do, really. You just go in and open a position right there, click the amount of points that you want. So on average, I'm using, for today's plays, it was around 77. So if I just go into it and show you. So on average, the cost of each position, because I was going in at $25 pounds per point, it's costing me around £2,000. So if I go into the history of it, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I put up a roughly around £24,000, £25,000 margin, okay, to open these trades. And we managed to see well through it. But it was a little bit tricky to say the least, guys. But I won't be trading tomorrow at all because when you play options, you enter and that is it. You hold until expiry or until you realize a return. And all I did was just take advantage of the fact that NASDAQ had swept the Asian session high. The Brinks box made the move to the upside, and we were trading at the value area high, as I was saying earlier on in the live stream. So if I bring that up for you, we were trading at the top side of the range. For God's sake, every single time it does this. Anyways, basically, we were trading at the top side of the value area high, okay, at the top of the range. So if I show you over here where I took the entry point, just to put it into perspective, okay, so this is it here. Let me just move that and let me bring that here. Okay, so if I expand this out, I'll show you. So played a little bit on NASDAQ, but here we go. It was from here. It was from here that I took the entry buy orders here, okay, at the lows with a little W formation. And this was the pump that I took. Just this little move here. And I didn't put too much size either. I put on 5 lot sizes right there. And it took the pump, but I copied the exact trade over to the S&P, which is effectively what got me this little return on over here. Where was it? There you go. Entry right there. And then we closed off right there on this little stop run right there, which was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but never mind. But that's me done for the week, ladies and gentlemen. And the question now stands is what's going to be happening next for Bitcoin? Well, now that Bitcoin has done a good job of recovering this wick to a degree, the question on everyone's minds is what is next for Bitcoin? Tomorrow is Friday. And if we just go back to last week, look at all these bids, gone, eaten alive. All those guys have been buying Bitcoin. Problem we've got now is the order flow is suggestive, which means that there is an indication that they do want lower prices because the bids are coming in. Look at these. All these bids are coming in. 32 million right there. Where is it? 32 million. For God's sake. 32 million. There you go. At 107,222. Now, the offers that you see are coming in now. And then you got 33 million there. And then you've got 22 million at the bottom right there. There you go. 22 million at 110,800. This is a problem. This is a massive problem. As I said last night, when they bid and then they automatically want to offer again, that means there's no desire to stay in the holdings for long. That's the problem. Now, the logic says that we don't know if that's the same participant. If someone bought Bitcoin here for 32 million hypothetically, how do we not know that their order is going to be up here for 6.67? We don't know if it's the same person. But all we can do is make the assumption in regards to the bids and the offers. And we say to ourselves, right, if these guys have been buying Bitcoin all morning as it's been going down, and now they're coming into the order book with the idea of trying to sell Bitcoin again, well, look at the duration of how long they're planning on being in the stock for, or in the asset for. Where is it? The 22 million right there. So if they were buying from this level here as it was going down, or even further down here, and they're going to want to sell all the way up here, that pretty much tells you that they don't plan on staying in Bitcoin for long. Again, what does that show you? It shows you that the dudes playing this, whether it's institutional players or not, or Wall Street, they are not in it for the long run. They are in it to make a quick buck. And that's going to be a limitation for Bitcoin, okay? Until it gets to a point where it really grabs people's attention. Do I think Bitcoin's grabbing people's attention yet? Not at all. The only next spot for Bitcoin to grab people's attention, in my honest opinion, guys, would be this range down here. That would be the point that Bitcoin grabs people's attention. Remember the 20K range was that psychological area? Remember when the 50K range was a psychological area? Maybe the 100K range is a psychological area now, okay? Because you've got to consider the participants that are picking Bitcoin up. It's the street, right? They've got access to capital. So even if they are getting involved in Bitcoin strategic reserves and what have you, it doesn't really matter too much what the price is. It's just about the accumulation. So if they can get it at a discount, they will. But it doesn't stop them from buying at significant highs. It doesn't stop them because you've got to look at the weight of the capital that's behind them. Yeah? Going over into the BlackRock to see where we are with inflows, outflows, and all that madness. So what we had today? 6 hours ago, we had 292 Bitcoin picked up on the ETF outflows. The last outflow was 10 hours ago, so that's all good. Inflows was the last 6 hours ago. All right, so that's okay. Fair enough. We're cool with that. Anything on Ethereum? No news on Ethereum. Going into the balance itself on the ETF, just to highlight where we are with that. Going over, and you can see we've got a balance of 805 and 103,000. So not really anything's come off. But if we actually just go into the marketplace itself, okay, it's not really anything to be too concerned about. It says here that stock slid, extending week-long stretch of volatility in Wall Street as bad loans at 2 regional banks stirred concern about credit. This story right now, when they're starting to drop the idea of bad loans, okay, you do remember the unrealized gains and losses of banks. This isn't new, okay? It is not new at all, all right? This is scaremongering in my opinion, because you've got to remember, unrealized net losses of bank gains and losses of banks right now, it's only because those types of assets that they're holding are BBB rated, okay? In the sense that if everything is all good, if anything does break down or there is a problem, those assets will suffer massively. But the majority of those assets in this unrealized gains and losses portfolio for banks overall, 65% of them are made up of tech stocks. And what's going on with tech right now? It's doing great. There's no real problem with tech right now, is there? All we now need is, and I'll tell you this, Nvidia to come out with its earnings announcement when it does, when it comes out with it and it smashes expectations again, your bull run is just confirmed. That is it. It's just going to keep on going and going and going. By that point, we'll know exactly where we stand with regards to China. But Trump has stayed pretty quiet regarding China, which concerns me because tomorrow we may get an announcement from Trump regarding China. Okay? That could be towards the end of the day. It could be during the New York Open, similar to what they did last time on last Friday. Or we're going to get another Black Friday. That's the issue we've got. Is Bitcoin effectively priming it for that story to come into play tomorrow? Which is why when we look at the order flow, they could bring it up to bring it down because the bids are coming in. Capish? This is the last shakeout. I hope it is the last shakeout. I do hope it is. But because you've still got the trade war story looming, means that it's not really the last shakeout. We don't know where we are with it. We're not finalized with the trade story, are we? For a little while, we had nothing on tariffs. There was nothing. Then all of a sudden, Trump was like, I'm going to put 100% tariffs on China. Cheers, Trump. Right now, he's focusing on IVF. Here's a stock. So, INVO fertility. Out of hours markets, it's done, well, it's not really great. But look, it's very cheap, okay? It's not the actual company that's involved in it. But go and research IVF companies in the stock market. So, this is a medical services company, right? And when you, one thing you could do to take advantage of it is this. IVF treatment in itself, right? That's one company, okay? What about the company that provides the equipment or that makes the equipment, okay? Then what about the company that effectively supplies any of the other, substances or anything that is required, okay, to enable the fertility, okay? What if there is a company that involves itself with research regarding fertility? In other words, go and Google fertility or health ETFs and focus on the ones in the holdings that show you that they are involved in fertility treatment, okay? Go and have a look at those ETFs, all right? Because what Trump has declared is IVF is going to be much cheaper for people to get access to. That is massive. Millions of people are going to be able to get access to IVF treatment, okay? If investing in medical service is not for you, then go in and look at the companies that provide the insurance for fertility treatment. There are two major industries. The main industry is medical. So that's where you start off with. But the sectors behind it, this is medical services. Behind this company as medical services is a company that provides medical equipment to allow this fertility to come into play. An example would be ISNG. Where is it? Intuitive Surgical. What is it? What is my ticker? Damn. Intuitive. Come on, please, Tina. What's the ticker? What the hell? There you go. ISRG. Damn. So this company developed advanced surgical systems designed to improve open surgery and minimally invasive surgery. Fertility. IVF. Sort of the company that can benefit from it. Right? Finding the stock, okay, is about you doing the work. All right? Go and investigate which sector's going to succeed from it. All right? Who's going to get paid? That's the question you ask. Before you buy a stock, look at the service it provides and say to yourself, who's going to get paid? Exactly in that way. Remember it like that. Because if you remember it like that, then it's going to make you be more inquisitive to try and find out who's going to get paid. Work backwards. Reverse engineer the idea of you buying the stock. So Why should I buy the stock? Well, here's the name of the company. Cool. IVF. What does this company do? Cool. Next. Who supplies them the IVF materials or the equipment? Okay. What does that company do? Okay. What about the other guy? Or who's going to communicate who? And that's how you're effectively going to get into the idea of making a purchase based on the stock, in my opinion. Yeah? Cool. Questions. Tino, can you see the smart money, dumb money chart, please? Yes, I certainly can. Bear with me. You did ask me earlier, man. It was just after I left. So sorry about that. Yeah, here we go. So, come on. Come on. This takes forever. Boycott exchange leverage trading. Shh. Don't say that. We need leverage. What the hell is this doing, man? Give it a second. It should come up in a minute. This is terrible. Hurry up. Click that. Click that. There we go. Dashboard. Anyways, whilst that's working, fix over 30. Buying time? Not quite yet. Not quite. This winds me up. What a waste of a subscription. Sorry. What a waste. Anyways, volatility index. I'll check that out in a second, my bro. Volatility index levels 22.53. Not above 30 yet. Okay. The thing with the volatility index today, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that it's there we go. I'll get to the volatility index in a second. All right. Smart money, dumb money. They're buying. They are buying. Retail is still at this level because retail has been the reason why assets have been appreciating. Okay. Still buying at these levels. That's what retail's doing. But smart money is buying too. All right. So you've got this, it's not an equilibrium, but it's like this balance as such between retail optimism and smart money. I wouldn't say it's confidence, okay? But what I'd say is there is optimism in smart money to buy. They're buying the dip. That's what this is, buying the dip, which means that when this peaks out, okay, logic says that when it gets above to the same level as retail, okay, and retail's all the way down here, if you just wait for these two peaks, ladies and gentlemen, you'll know exactly when to buy and when to sell, which leads me on to the volatility index principle, okay? The only next bout of volatility that I believe is going to come into play, two events, is Donald Trump with China and trade. Okay, that's the first one. Second one is the idea of the Bank of Japan, okay, increasing their interest rates, which technically could be an event that they could already prepare themselves for because it is in line for that actual increase. So if we just minus that and then replace it with the idea of credit, but we know that credit's really not a problem just yet, okay? And I will confirm that right now. Let's just quickly go over to the idea of credit. Where is the credit? Credit. I've got the chart I've spoken about. There we go. There it is. Okay, so here's this chart right here. The credit spread, all right? Remember what I said about this chart? This chart shows you that when the credit spread or the blue line down here is going up, that's a problem, which actually it's coming down. From going up, it's now actually coming down. But it's not at an extreme level yet. Because these are extreme levels. When the VIX goes to 46, you buy everything. Anything above 30 is a buy. Now, it could stay at 30 and trade till about 46. So in other words, if you have a bad day and there's a bad day in the market and it goes to 31 and you're like, let's buy. And then some more bad news comes out and it goes to 48. Keep buying. Buy whatever it is you can. Even if the VIX keeps on going up to, COVID itself sent the VIX up to astronomical levels, ladies and gentlemen. Just go over to it on the 11-hour chart. You can just go back and you can see that when the VIX, when we had the COVID situation, that right there, of course, the VIX went all the way up to 100. You would have needed to buy absolutely everything. But saying that, it was going up progressively. Look, progression. It was going up. So they were hedging as it was happening. It wasn't just one candlestick. It was going up on that basis. So if we just go over to the daily time frame, just to understand where we are with it, you can see that it went up over here. So you can see here that the VIX was going up pretty much. Let's just count the major moves. So from this peak, let's go to 30, all right? That's where you would be considering buying, yeah? High, when it's high, you buy. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 days of VIX going up, okay? That's where you'll be building your longs, and you just keep buying and buying and buying, and then the hedge happens, and then it rolls back down again. Business back to usual. So the same logic holds. Look here. You see this volatility index spikes up to around 28, right? It goes up 1, 2, 3 days straight, then down, and then 4. It's at the peak of there. You're buying up at that point. It then rolls all the way back down again. The one thing you'll find with the volatility index and the vectors is these guys are transacting out of the stock market, going into hedging assets, okay? Hedging themselves, and then they release the hedge. They then cover themselves, and then when everything starts to come down, that's when they're picking everything up on a discount. So they're selling stuff. All right. And then they're buying it all back up on the way. So then, of course, when it comes down, that's when everything goes back up again. Okay. So that's something you got to take into consideration. Do I use the VIX when I'm trading options? Yes. That's why I went short today on the VIX. Sorry, when I went short on the NASDAQ, because this was pumping up. If you just go over to it, go to the 1 hour time frame. I was paying close attention to the fact that they were held here. Green vector candle at the start of the New York session gave me the idea that at the start of the Brinks, the VIX showed optimism to start hedging. That was where I was like, okay, we need to start getting our shorts ready. NASDAQ was pumping up. But if you look, NASDAQ was pumping when the VIX was coming down. That's when I paid attention, because then I saw the VIX really make a move, which was around the same time that the NASDAQ showed this vector over here, and then they rolled it over. That's where I played my short. Funnily enough, it was exactly the same position play yesterday. What's this? Green candle, red candle formation. The red candle subsides over to the green vector. Stop in volume candle. Stop in volume candle 1. Stop in volume candle 2. Down she goes. That's how we took the trade today. Took exactly the same trade the day before. Okay? That's what NASDAQ's going to be doing. Now, going into Asia tonight, they could easily pump it up. Going into New York tomorrow, they pump it up. Trump says, screw you all. I'm going to put a tariff on China. Yippee-ki-yay to the downside. Finalize the end of the week at these lows. Finished. Start again next week. No data from the marketplace. Government shut down. Happy days. Back to business. And it's going to be doing the same thing until the US government opens, until we get our non-farm payrolls data, until we get the CPI read. I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, wait there. Go into it. Where's the calendar for next week? Next week, we should be getting the CPI data, man. We should be getting that. And they're expecting it to go up. But the government is shut down. All right? And what's really funny is I'm seeing people on X posting, whoa, big week or big news today. And the government is shut. They're not declaring this information. You know, until they tell us the government's open, then we can look at this. But you notice I've not looked at the calendar once because we're not getting any data. That's why you're getting these free-for-all movements, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? If the VIX is above 30, do we buy XRP? You are forbidden to buy XRP. Stop wasting your money. Any God, can I apply VIX up my nose? Never mind. Never mind. Tino, almost a year ago in Platinum subscription, I did see a video about the recovery of the wick. Can we assume that will happen in Bitcoin in the 4-hour vector wick, and why the wick is important? The best way for me to explain it is like this. This candle, right? This candlestick used to be a full candlestick, right? Now, by the logic of bids and offers, people are buying on the way down, right? What they then do is they then trigger an exhaustion. There's lots of people shorting, selling to the point where they can no longer sell because there's no one down below prepared to bid. All right? There always is, But the market dynamics say, okay, what we got now, we've had lots of people selling. We need to now start looking at the order flow above. This is an algorithm thinking now. What's going on up there? Well, we got a lot of participants that want to quickly sell. Okay, let's just start triggering. Bang, reversal. You then see an influx of liquidity coming in. It pumps liquidity and then pushes it back up. So then when it reverses back up again, okay, you've got all of these guys that were in positions beforehand for shorts. You've also got guys that were in positions for longs. And price will always go back into it to test the commitment of the longs, to reinduce the people that want it to go down again, and to repeat the same shit. That's why price goes into the wick and reacts from it. Okay? There's imbalances in the wick. There's changes in the algorithm. There's changes in a pricing algorithm and also order flow algorithm. All right? Because some algorithms work on different schedules. The ones that certain algorithms work on the idea that you first come, first serve basis. There might be an order in the book, right? That's been there for 3 weeks, right? And the algorithm might be programmed to say, right, you know what? We're going to go to this order because it's been there for so long. All right. And you'll be like, hold on, I've got an order all the way up here. Why don't you take my order of 15,000? Nah, this order has been in the book for a long time. We want to fill that order first. And that could be less than what the 15,000 is. It all depends on the actual route of the algorithm itself. Another order flow could be something else. It could be, I think the other one is it to order? Well, I've forgotten what it is. But it basically means whoever comes in at certain times or certain speeds, okay, whatever amount, will just go to it. And it doesn't matter if there is an order of 50,000 here or 50,000 below. It doesn't matter. It's whatever's going on in the visible range, okay? So it all depends on the type of algorithm that is working, basically. There's mad math behind it. But to really help you understand bid and offers, okay, the vector candles save you the hassle. All you've got to understand is there was an influx of people buying at this point, okay, or selling, and they were trapped, and it's a stopping volume candle because there is pressure to mark lower, but price instantly reverses back up to prevent price from going in that direction. But they will always come back into that point to retest the commitment, which you can see here. They come into it, they moved up a little bit, come down, tested it, come back into that range yet again, done it down, came back up, done down, came back up. So we can make an assumption that this area here is showing a little bit of support for NASDAQ, which means in the Asian session, we could see it trying to climb back up again. That's how you marry the idea of a logic behind a trade, in my opinion. Tino, how do you trade gold at all-time highs when you're a day trader? Easy. Gold is easy. So this was it's not that it's easy. It's you've got to have balls. Simple as. Okay, you've got to have balls. This was the projection that I gave for the platinum members earlier on. If you want to check that out, it's pinned to the top of the chat. But I said, look, retrace back into the 4,234. Why? Because if the logic is that we are correct with the idea of gold going up, then this vector candle block and the Tokyo range will tell me that if they favor higher prices, this drop to the downside of the red vector was designed to build bids at lower prices to then offer at higher prices. Okay? And that's exactly what they did. Look at the 5 and 13 EMA, just from a momentum perspective. And I didn't know nothing about order flow or anything at all about macroeconomics or zilch. If I just looked at the order flow, the moving averages, I would then say, oh, we're in a positive trend to the upside. Cool. Take a long and ride that move. 4,280. And we ended up getting, of course, that price point of 4,326. There it is right there. Look, retrace back into it. The lowest of point is 4,228. We wanted 4,234. You had about a $5-6 drawdown. Wow. Can't complain about that. And then it just went. It just cleared the range. And it's riding the 5 and 13 EMA. No break of the 5 and 13 EMA, rally to the upside. This is on the 1 hour time frame. Take the same logic, go over to Bitcoin and say to yourself, what's Bitcoin doing on the 5 and 13 EMA? Well, Bitcoin's a little bit more volatile, but you can appreciate it's a little bit zagged or zigzag. But if you then take the daily time frame, and I said to you yesterday, as long as Bitcoin trades below the 5 and 13 EMA, it's going down. Well, you've just tested your 200 EMA. Now you're trading below the 5 and 13 EMA 3 days in a row. It's progressively working previous areas. Now it's going to more than likely want to go down a little bit further. It could happen tonight. Who knows? But as long as the order flow is suggesting that it's below key moving averages, the idea is Bitcoin's going to go lower. More logic on price action to the downside over here. the bids, then that's it. It might get cheaper. It might reverse tonight. You just don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But you've got to put logic together and say, you know what? Just take the damn trade, man. That's what you've got to do. You're never going to, I can give you as much analysis as I want. You can sit there and analyze everything. You can pull up anything you want in this chart, ladies and gentlemen. But unless you take the trade, it is pointless. Why? Because if you don't take the trade, you're not getting any feedback about whether you are right or wrong. You take the trade, you're getting feedback on whether you are right or wrong by looking at how much money you're risking. So you already know you're going to lose a certain amount, so you accept that. But then what you then say to yourself is, hold on a second, what reasons do I have to hold on to the trade? What reasons do I have to get out of the trade or take profit on this trade? All right? You get no feedback giving analysis unless you are in a trade that is showing you information, new information. You believe Bitcoin's going to go down? Take a trade and analyze. That's when trading starts. Not before. It starts the second you open a trade. All right. Now, we're all looking at the same thing, thinking it's going to go lower, or some of you are looking at it going higher, right? Ultimately, whatever information that leads you to take the idea of direction, you will never know its truth unless you take the trade, which is why I always encourage you all, take light trades, use small size, all right? Because you'll get more information if the trade works in your favor, right? Do you want an analogy? I mean, you see a woman, right, on your phone, and you're like, oh, I like her. Cool. Click. You message her. Yo, what's up? How you doing? Right, let's meet up. Cool, she agrees. So far, the picture's giving you an idea that it's all good. So you're going to probe a little bit and be like, I'm going to commit a little bit of time for this. Right? I'm not going to look at it and be like, I'm going to marry this chick. You're going to look at it and be like, I'm going to commit a little bit of time. You then arrange and then you meet up. Then you see in the distance, there's this woman with blonde hair. And you're like, okay, this matches up to the picture. Is it her? You then get closer and closer and you're like, it really is her. And then you get really close. And just before you get to that point where you see her face, you're like, I'm falling in love, and you're committed. Well, then she turns around and she's got more facial hair than you. So then you're like, I've just given everything to this, and I just got liquidated looking at this bird. I mean, it's a shitty analogy, but you get the idea, all right? What I would suggest you do is you just get a telescope or get a camera zoom in, just make sure that she's clean shaved. Fuck you know, what am I saying? Listen, you get the idea what I'm trying to say. Yeah, just look at the TV. Mad love and respect, and I'll tune into you tomorrow. What a shitty analogy. Right, mad love to you all. Peace.